Hey guys, if you're currently working to take control of your nervous system and minimize that constant state of being in fight or flight that we know can be so problematic, something called Muse, it's a brain sensing headband, might be a tool that could really help you out with this. I shared with everybody here what my experience had been of using Muse for 30 days, but it's been a bit over 3 months now of using it. So I thought I'd give you an update of how this has been going long term, and not only how it's been helping me, but has it consistently been helping with nervous system regulation and brain retraining, and how do I know? What I'm covering in this video is the Muse S Gen 2, and I'd like to thank Muse for sponsoring this video, helping me to continue to bring you ongoing quality information at no cost to you. And should you decide to give Muse a try with my affiliate link, you also get a 15% discount. I have tried a lot of different devices over the years, and I found some value in most of them. Not all of them, but virtually all of them have something to contribute. But from all of the things that I've used, Muse has been my absolute favorite, which is why I decided to do the follow-up video. And don't tell the company, but I would have done a video telling you about this even without the affiliate link. So in this video, I'm going to explain to you exactly why that is. I'm going to cover 3 things. So what Muse is and how it works, what you can use it for, and what has and hasn't been helpful for me with Muse after 3 months of using it. If this is your first time here, I'm Raelan Agle, and I recovered from ME/CFS about 5 years ago after a 10-year struggle, and became so fascinated by recovery and showing people that it was possible that I started interviewing people who had also gotten their health back. And fast forward to over 200 interviews later, my mind has been blown on what is possible with recovery. But it turns out that not only was my mind blown in this process of all of these interviews over these years, my nervous system was also. It turns out that being incredibly passionate about something and having some ingrained tendencies to run yourself into the ground is a recipe for burnout, and that nervous system regulation is something that I've found that I need to continually take control of, even now that my CFS symptoms are no longer there. And the good news is that I've learned so much that I don't really worry about falling back into that trap of CFS. Just like virtually everyone I talk to who recovers, you come out of this feeling confident because you have the tools you need to take care of yourself. But the bad news is that your nervous system hasn't really changed. And I found that my nervous system still acts like a squirrel who found a stash of espresso beans if I don't take care of it. So that's why I wanted to test out Muse to see if it could help. And it turns out it helps not just a bit, but quite a lot, as I told you in my first video that I did after using Muse for 1 month. And I love that it's far more than a meditation tool. It has tons of guided meditations. It's essentially a meditation teacher that walks you through all the different ways that you can meditate, but it does so many different things, and it gives you real-time feedback on your brain and your nervous system while you're using it, which is incredible. It's been really eye-opening for me to see when I'm truly relaxed, when my nervous system is truly relaxed versus just when I think that I am. It turns out that just sitting on the couch and staring at the wall, even though it feels like you're doing nothing and things should be calming down, your nervous system can still be on high alert, which is really not good. Okay, so let's dive into the 3 things we're covering in this video. The first one is, what is Muse? How does it work? So for this section, I'm going to break that down into 3 things: what it is, what it's doing, and exactly how it's retraining your brain. And first, actually, let me just show it to you. It's an impressive high-tech device that is deceptively simple to look at. And it's very easy to use. It's got this little magnetic clasp that just pops on and off. You can size it for your head, and all you do is make sure that little Muse symbol is readable and facing the right direction. And then you just strap it onto your head. And I don't want to mess up my hair that I spent so much time on for you today. So I'm not going to keep it on. Plus, I think I look a little bit silly, but that's all it is. Just pop on the magnetic clasp, put it on, and you're ready to go. So what this is, despite just looking like a slightly odd looking headband, it is actually a state-of-the-art brain sensing device that uses advanced EEG, so electroencephalography, I hope I said that right, algorithms to monitor your brain activity in real time while you're using it and doing brain retraining activities. So while doing brain retraining through the app that it's connected to, you can see what's happening in your brain and how effective the activity is that you're doing. And not only that, it teaches you how to be more effective with many different things that you can do while using it by seeing how your brain and ultimately nervous system is reacting and learning in the moment how to get better at what you're doing and seeing if what you're doing is actually working. So, I mean, essentially it's a headband with sensors that connect to your head and also to an app on your phone or your tablet and give you instant feedback on your mental state. It's amazing. Through the app, it lets you see your brain waves, your actual brain waves in real time while using it. And as space agey as this sounds, because this used to be the type of thing that you could only get done by going into some, fancy medical center and, spending the day there and being hooked up to very expensive, massive equipment. But the great thing about where we are today is this, many of these things we can do from home. And this isn't new. This isn't some brand new technology that just came out last month. As I mentioned in my first video on this, it's trusted by renowned institutions like Harvard and NASA and the Mayo Clinic and has been featured in over 200 third-party research studies. So this is the real deal. Okay, so now let's look at what it's doing. So what is putting this headband doing besides making me feel like I'm in some sort of sci-fi movie? It does many, many different things. And I can link the first video I did on this if you want to learn more about all the different features and all the different things you can do with it. But the thing that I think the people who watch this channel will appreciate the most is that it shows you when you are in a stressed, panicked, fearful state and teaches you through many different ways how to calm yourself down and bring yourself into that parasympathetic nervous system state, that digest and rest and digest state that we are aiming to get into in life as much as possible so that our bodies aren't symptomatic and our bodies can heal and thrive and do all the wonderful things that it does when it's not in a state thinking that it's addressing some sort of immediate threat. So one way it works with you is that Muse translates your brain signals into sounds. So, for example, when your mind is calm and settled, you hear birds chirping. And it's just so peaceful and relaxing. And it's a signal that your brain is in a calm state. But if your mind is active or wandering or stressed, you get some weather sounds that slowly become a bit more intense. Things like the sound of falling rain. And as that starts to get louder, it's signaling you to calm your mind and refocus. So this means that you're not just guessing about whether you're meditating well or whether your brain retraining is actually working or if you're doing it while your brain is in a calm state, because we know that brain retraining is more effective when your brain is more neuroplastic, and it is more neuroplastic, meaning it can form new connections when you're in a calm state. So it takes out the guesswork and gives you immediate feedback in the moment to help train you how to do it better. Think of it like a GPS for your brain that's helping you navigate your way back to being calm. All right, so how does this actually retrain your brain? So it's about utilizing neuroplasticity, that brain's ability to rewire itself while forming new connections. And training and consistency of practice, similar to developing any muscle, are key. So you're teaching yourself how to be calmer, how to regain focus, and how to create more mental silence in your life, which is priceless. All right, now on to the second of three things that I promised you in this video, what to use Muse for. So there are many things that you can use it for, including tracking and improving cognitive performance, guided meditations, learning how to slow down your heart rate and control your heart rate, which is incredible. There are guided things in it that teach you how to learn how to be more still in your body, and it teaches you calming breathwork activities, which we know are really important, among a bunch of other things. If you want to learn more about all of these features, check out that first video that I did because I dive more into all of those. But for this feature, I'm going to focus on the three biggest ones that I think that you, people watching this channel, will appreciate. And those three things are improving sleep, nervous system regulation and brain retraining, and tracking progress and wins. Okay. Let's start with sleep, because if you're anything like me, sleep can be an adventure. And if you've been listening to me here for a while, you know that my motto is to sleep at all costs. But even still, lately, my sleep habits have not always been amazing. And Muse has been surprisingly helpful, shockingly helpful for helping me wind down at night. Of the 17 different things I do in a day to help ensure I get a good night's sleep, using this before bed, even just 5 to 7 minutes, is almost feels miraculous in how it calms me down and drift off into sleep. Typically, I read before bed, and I might read for 30 to 45 minutes before my brain finally calms down and I get into that place where I feel like I can fall asleep. And with Muse, I still read, but I find I last maybe 5 minutes and I'm passing out because I'm already so relaxed. So it's been truly a game changer for me in this regard. There's also something in it called a digital sleeping pill, which kind of sounds like a marketing gimmick, but it's quite impressive. So if you're someone who, my biggest problem isn't typically waking up in the middle of the night, it's falling asleep. But if you wake up in the night and have trouble falling back asleep, you can wear the headband while you're sleeping, and it will sense when you wake up, and then it uses sounds and different things to pull you back into sleep. And it's much more than just, putting on a calming soundtrack in the background of ocean waves or something. This is actually reading your brain waves in real time and then tailoring the sounds and tailoring, what it does, what you hear, to pull you back down into sleep and get you back to sleep, which is pretty incredible. It also tracks your ideal sleeping position, so you'll get to learn if you sleep better on your side or your back and so forth. I love sleeping on my side, and everything I read always told me that was terrible, but Muse showed me that I sleep best on my side, so that was a great permission slip. It gives you expert level like sleep tracking at home, the things that we used to have to do, like go in someplace, do a sleep study, spend the night in some clinic, which I've wanted to do for years because I struggle with sleep. But the idea of having to go in there and do that was so unappealing that I never did it. So now you get to do this from home and learn so much about your sleep just in your own bed, which is pretty cool. All right, the next one. Brain retraining and nervous system regulation, the big ones. So when you have the Muse headband and you get the app that goes along with it, within that, it has a ton of curated brain retraining programs already there for you, ready to go. And I know that for so many people who watch this channel, that staying stuck in a constant fight or flight mode is often at the core of the issue that you're facing. And calming your nervous system down isn't just as simple as thinking happy thoughts or listening to ocean sounds. It can be that, but for the most part, when you're in that acute fight or flight, we can't just, snap out of it. So where Muse comes in and where it can be so helpful is because when you're using it, it gives you real-time feedback, which means you can actually tell when your nervous system is calming down instead of just doing things and hoping for the best. It reads our brain activity and it lets us know when we're moving into a calmer state. And it's actually really cool because it's doing all this complicated stuff on the back end. And when you look at the charts, and you can get really bogged down in the data looking at everything that's happening. But the great thing is that you don't actually even need to look at any of that. If you're the kind of person that loves all that kind of data and wants to see all the charts and all the different brain waves and what different ones are doing at different times, it's all there. But how I use it, and the only part that I really focus on, is my experience when I'm using it. And when your brain gets into a calmer state, when your nervous system calms down, depending on which experience you're using within Muse, but my favorite ones to do are where when you're in a calm state, you start to hear birds chirping, and it's just like, oh, just magical, because you've gotten yourself into this really great place, and you have something telling you that, yes, your brain is calm, your mind is calm, your body is calm, things are good. And when things start to pick up and the stress comes in and panic, fear, a whole bunch of thoughts, then you start to hear sounds of rain and storms that get louder and a little bit more intense. And I used to think, oh no, this is going to stress me out because I am a perfectionist and I want to only have the birds. But then you realize that it's every time it comes up, it's this chance to retrain your brain. It's a chance to work on calming yourself down. And the sound of rain isn't stressful. It's just an indication of, there's a lot going on up there. And then you work to calm it down, and then the birds come back again. And it's really cool. And I said I don't look at any of the data. That's not entirely true. I do check just some of the high level stuff every once in a while in the app, because it's really amazing to see, because Muse enables you to course correct in the moment and learn how to get better at it. For the most part, every future session is a little bit better than the last one, because you're learning new skills and you get to see that progress over time, which transitions me perfectly into the next thing that I said I was going to talk about, which is seeing those wins and tracking your progress over time, seeing those insights into your habits and your improvements. And I talked about it gives you some really simple scores that you can look at to track what's happening in your brain over time. And some of those things are things like cognitive performance score, which is amazing. So basically how sharp and focused your brain is while you're doing these sessions. And there's a brain recharge score. So that's a measure of how well your brain is recovering from stress. And at first, my brain recharge score was kind of all over the place. And that's okay. It's going to be. But over time, I started seeing more consistent improvements, and not because I was doing anything fancy, just because I was using it regularly and actually seeing when my nervous system was calming down. All right, the last thing we're covering in this video: what has and hasn't been helpful for me using it over these last 90 days. Now, I've covered a lot of what has, but I haven't talked to you about what hasn't been so helpful. And I'm also going to tell you what surprised me the most about using it, and then let you know if I would recommend it for you. I was really curious to see if there was going to be lasting impact after using it for those first 30 days, because that first month was really promising. So I did that first 30 days, and you'll see in that video, I was so gung-ho. After I recorded it and I watched it, I thought, oh my goodness, I look like I work for Muse. But I genuinely was just so excited about this product. It had helped me so much. And when I made the video in Bora Bora, it was one of the most beautiful places in the world, and I was using it there, and it was just like exuding, like, best thing ever. And it has been helpful. Absolutely everything I've shared is true. There's a couple things, I was curious to see after that month. And there was a little bit of a dip after, when you start a good habit and you think, I'm going to do this forever. Like, it's a no-brainer. There's no way I won't do this. But once I had the video done, I think some of the pressure I was putting on myself to really use it was to make sure I had that solid 30 days in before I recorded. And then after that was done, it's like, oh, I can take a little break. And picking it back up again felt initially like a bit of a chore, or I thought that it would. But as soon as I started again, I remembered, like, oh my goodness, why? Why did I ever stop? It's such an easy thing. I never do long periods. I do 5 and 10-minute sessions. Typically, it's not a big commitment, and I really enjoy it. But what hasn't been helpful for me is wearing it while I sleep. So you can do that digital sleeping pill program that will pull you back into sleep when you wake up. But I sleep with so many things. It's ridiculous on my body. I've got like homemade contraptions on my hands to keep my fingers from twitching because they wake me up. I've got a massive eye mask to block out the light. It's like this thick. I've got earplugs. I've got a mouth guard. So you add in a headband to that equation, and it's just the straw that breaks the camel's back. So I can't add one more thing onto my body. Now, if I laid awake at night, every night in the middle of the night, I'd probably suck it up and start to wear it. But since that's not my biggest problem, I find that I don't. I like putting it on before bed. My nervous system, take it off. I also tried bringing it places. Like I go to co-working spaces during the week sometimes. And I thought, well, I'll just go sit in a quiet room and I'll put it on and do a little session. And I find I don't love using it in other places, aside from when I was using it in Bora Bora, of course. There was no bad place there. But for the most part, I like to use it at home. I want to have calm and quiet around me. I don't want to be in a public space. I love being my favorite place is sitting up on my bed with a bunch of pillows behind me, leaning against the wall or the headboard. And that's the best way for me to use it. And then the other thing that hasn't been working well for me is having any kind of rigid schedule. So I aim to use it every morning for a few minutes right before I get out of bed, and then for a few minutes before I go to sleep. But if I don't, if I skip it, if I miss it, it is fine. There is no guilt. There is no must keep my streak going. None of that. I just think every time I use it is a bonus, and just celebrate that. And don't worry about the rest. And what has been the most beneficial I've found over the last few months is that it has added a lot to my morning and my evening routine. So my solid morning routine on the days where I get my solid morning routine in, because some mornings it does not happen, but it's just as soon as I wake up, sitting up and putting that headband on. And I've been struggling to get out of bed in the mornings, and this has been really helpful because my alarm goes off and I know all I have to do is sit up and put on this really peaceful experience. So that's an easy thing to talk myself into. And then I take my dogs for a walk and I go to the gym, and it's just my perfect way to start the day, focusing on taking care of myself. Even walking the dogs, just being outside in the morning sun feels like a gift to myself. And then it's such a solid part of my nighttime routine. It's really a no-brainer to do it before bed. I'm really just hurting myself if I decide not to do it, because I'm not going to fall asleep as quickly. I also found that when I'm using it and I think of certain situations that start to stress me out, the rain will come and the storms will come, whether it's a meeting I have coming up, or I even did it this morning and I was thinking about comments I'm going to get about how everything I do should be for free and shame on you, Raelan, for trying to make a living. But it's good because in those moments and the rain, cloud, storm goes, I get to work on calming myself while thinking about these things. So it's been really helpful. And I'm all about efficiency. So before this, I would meditate for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 20 minutes. But in that time, my mind could be wandering half the time and I'd have no idea. Like long stretches of time would go by before I even realized that what I was doing wasn't really meditating at all. So now I just feel so much more efficient. I can do a 10-minute session and it pulls me back in instantly when my brain starts going all monkey brain. And yeah, overall, I've noticed reduced stress, sharper focus, better control over my stress and emotions, and better sleep. And what has surprised me the most about using it over the past few months is that every time I sit down to do it, I'm grateful that I'm doing a 7-minute session or a 10-minute session, because I find I never want to commit to more than that. I just feel like I'm busy. I just want to get on with things. But almost every time when the time is up, I'm sad that the time is over and I want to keep going. And it has just a button on there, like want to keep going, and you press the button and then you get to keep going for as long as you want. So I'll just sit for another few minutes, because sometimes I don't start hearing the birds right till the end of the session. And then I'm like, oh, I'm in such a good place right now. I just want to stay here a little bit longer. And I don't know that that's ever been my experience with just straight traditional meditation that when it's done, I'm like, stay here longer. But with this one it is. So now, 3 months later, I can honestly say it's been one of the more useful tools by far that I've tried. It hasn't magically cured anything or changed my life in dramatic ways or fixed all my problems, because that's not how this works. But it has helped me get better at calming my nervous system and actually knowing when I'm in a more relaxed state. I thought I was already pretty good at calming my nervous system, but it turns out I was mostly good at just sitting still, thinking I was being calm, but my brain was still just running laps. So that's my feedback. And after the last video, you can go back and look at it and see the comments. But one of the comments that stood out to me was from someone named Mark, who summed up his experience of trying Muse after he saw the video. So Mark said that after seeing this video, I did some research on Muse and decided to give it a try. It's been nearly 2 months of daily use, and I'm so glad I took the plunge. One thing to note, and I think this is such a great call out, is that this takes real cognitive work. So Mark says, I have to be careful not to overdo it and gradually ramp up my daily time spent working with Muse, but nonetheless, the feedback from Muse has really helped my meditation and my breath work. He says, I had my suspicions, but before Muse, I didn't actually know how bad I was at meditating. I suspect no one's actually bad at meditating, but I appreciate what he's saying. He says, seriously, I had no idea what I was doing when meditating previously. It's incredibly helpful to have real-time feedback. And I love this. He says, it's like clicker training with my dog. You know, you have a clicker and they get a little click every time they're doing something right. He says, except I'm the dog. And I'm happy to report that an old dog can indeed learn new tricks. So would I recommend it? I'm pretty sure you figured out the answer by now. Yes, I would recommend it based on my experience and the science that backs it. But of course, you know what's good for you and you know what your gut is telling you, and you are the expert on your life, and you are ultimately the person who's going to know best if this is something that might be helpful for you as well. But if you've been struggling to find a way to calm your nervous system in a way that actually sticks, this might be worth looking into. It's about utilizing neuroplasticity, the brain's ability to rewire itself while forming new connections, and training and consistency of practice, similar to developing any new skill or muscle, are key, because you are teaching yourself how to be calmer, how to regain focus, and how to create more mental silence in your life, which to me is priceless. And if you're already using Muse, I'd love to hear about it. I'm sure everyone else would love to hear about it and learn about your experience. So let us know in the comments. If you're interested in trying Muse, you can check it out at choosemuse.com/Raelan, and you can use my promo code Raelan, which will get you 15% off. And all of this is linked and explained in the video description. So looking forward to hearing your feedback, and hope you'll join me in this next video where I share a bit more about Muse and a ton of my adventures in beautiful Bora Bora.